There's been a fire reported in the building. Please proceed to the nearest exit and leave the building.
This is just a drill.
Fighting security. That's 19 security. Floor 2 is clear.
Good evening. My name is Eric, and welcome back to Deciphering My Experience. We are here today with Rogue Dragon, and we are going to be discussing her life and her experiences as, I guess, what I would refer to as a gate kid. Does that term feel comfortable with you?
I guess I don't know a lot of the terms just because most of my memories are it's like seeing a movie. So
Fair enough. I don't necessarily know the right words either. Where I guess we're all trying to find common vocabulary, right? But kids with different childhoods and experiences from others. And I can say that Rogue Dragon has become herself a healer in different modalities, and I hope she can share some of that with us today. She's also into music. She's a musician, and I know myself personally. I have, I guess, a bit of an angle to get this started from because I have intentions in the community. I want to decipher my experience while helping others decipher their experiences and maybe help those that aren't necessarily awake yet be more prepared for when their awakening is, I believe, is probably right around the corner. About 10 years ago, I had the privilege, I went to go see David Icke in New York City, and he had a presentation, and I believe the title was "The Lion Sleeps No More." And it was he was trying to wake people up as he normally does, and the idea was for mankind to kind of get off their knees, that we need to wake up, and I believe that Rogue Dragon is somebody who's definitely in that awakening process, and I would like to ask some questions about you today. But if you would like to first introduce yourself and cover any bases that I may have missed in your story.
sure. I guess I'm not exactly sure where to start from the beginning, I suppose.
Mhm.
Just growing up, I've always had and experienced different paranormal activity. I mean, we had fireflies living in the South, but I also saw things that would look like little fairies, like it looked like a little fire person inside. And um, when I was 3, going down a hill in this little plastic horse thing that my dad had rigged up with some wheels, I liked to go really fast, but I remember falling, and it's like I was floating. I never hit the ground. My dad was kind of freaked out. Some of the big things I do remember from school, I was put in the LD program, with the learning disabled kids, and we would go every day from there after we did like flashcards or something with math. We would go on a white bus or the short school bus somewhere. And sometimes it's like, I remember a lot of times we were at like the Horns or the Alamo. There's a space observatory there in San Antonio. We're at Fort Sam Houston is where I was born. My dad was an orthopedic surgeon in school at the time, in the Army. And my mom was a nurse. She had kind of retired as the captain. And I just remembered that I would go through these different programs where supposedly I was being like helped with different problems with like coordination, like balance. I had to learn how to snap my fingers and cross my eyes and do things. But I only remember parts of the program, and there's just like weird spotty, it's like I have all these memory lapses and missing time, and that was always weird to me. But then I would also at night remember sleeping and having that physical paralysis where it felt like literally hell was on earth on me. And then bright lights, or I would be floating and hitting the ceiling, or dreaming of jumping through light portals and going places.
Mhm.
And a lot of times I was an adult, dreaming as a child as I was an adult, which I thought was strange. Um, and then just as I've gone further, I started doing a dream journal. So I used to listen to a lot of David Wilcock on Gaia several years ago. It's helping me wake up. And so I definitely have a ton of stuff in here that when I have a lucid dream, I'll hit record on my voice recorder and record it and then type it out and then write it that way. I've got it in the journal. I've had encounters with people that I think are probably time travelers. There's one especially that's he visited like twice. I'm trying to find the picture of him because I had shown it on James's program. But I actually met him. I'm not going to say his name, just because, and he doesn't remember those things. But so it was probably an SSP timeline or military abduction timeline that he was jumping to visit me. And so, which I thought was interesting because it was just a nonverbal, hey, what's up? Peace out. And that's what I do when I sing. So I'm like, okay, that has to be somebody that knows me. Um, and then just dreams where I draw like pictures of places that I'm seeing in my dream. My son, like, what is this place? And he's like, that's the moon Io, mom, and that's Neptune. And then Jupiter was back, or excuse me, Saturn was back here, and then the sun. And so I don't know if I was on a moon or if I was on Jupiter or like it was some sort of planet, but that was the dream. And so, I mean, I'm not claiming like some people say, well, I was on this mission on this base doing this thing. All I have is pictures. And, you know, I was wearing a tactical uniform with some sort of weapon that looked like it could shoot lasers. And then I had these gloves with pads on them that I could use my chi and it would cause like a fireball or an ice type energy that would either freeze or burn or make somebody, you know, it was just horrible things. But it's just weird dreams like that.
Totally understood, and trying to
You know,
make sense of it. And like you said, through the years as an adult, and then through a child's psyche, to then have to reframe the memories has been a way that I've been trying to, I guess, communicate to people. It's almost like, you know, like you have a photo hanging on your wall, right? And it's matted and it's framed, but yet there's more photo to it. And the matted and the framed version is what the childlike mind does to make you comfortable with that photo. But as an adult, you can now take that photo out of that matted frame and now look at the whole picture. And that, I guess, in a way is dealing with the trauma sometime that's around a memory.
Right.
It makes me wonder that in your experience, what you had as that the muscle memory correctiveness that you were recalling, if potentially chronologically that was occurring on your return and they were trying to get you dialed back in to check for function.
Maybe I have so many different things that I remember. I actually went to Debbie Solaris for an Akashic reading. And she said that I was one of the most psychic people that she's read, and that I'm remembering all my lifetimes, all my timelines, and
right.
As a hybrid.
The order is challenging.
Right, and it's weird to kind of see that, but she gave me a lot more confidence. And I'm also studying Lisa Renee's energetic synthesis, her Hyros Gamos program, or not really program, her work. I don't like to use program because it's programs, but anyway, just kind of a spiritual work, inner work to help integrate. And I've integrated a pretty hefty beta altar that had a lot of violence in her. She was very sabotaging, very angry, very triggered. It was like a high heart devastation that I could just feel. And one of my best friends, that he's been helping me with a lot of different suggestions and things through a lot of this integration. Just, it's weird, when I would talk to him, I would feel this energy, and then I realized it was her trying to sabotage that friendship, because according to what Debbie had talked about, and I've just known, he's been visiting me on the astral for over 17 years.
Wow.
And she said he's not like a twin flame, but we basically have had a contract to come back to this planet and to help. I do different types of grid working as an indigo, to just kind of change energies. I've always had this thing where I'm taking lost souls or fragments from the earth and just helping release them and release trauma from myself and from other people. And I see shields, like I'll do energetic shields on myself, or when I do energy work with people, and it looks like Merkabas sometimes. Like I'll see a bubble that if you look really close, it's like a Merkaba, and it's always these iridescent auric fields, which Lisa calls the aurora. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm seeing these things that she's talking about in this these meditations, in all of her ascension calls, that it's just really helped me realize that I'm not crazy. Somebody else is doing this, and there's other people seeing these things. And I actually see this when I'm doing energy work. So it's not just all in my head. And people can feel me whenever I do what I call a bilocational, kind of like remote viewing type psionic Reiki session with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll an etheric surgery where I'll pull off different entities, or if they've got programs that are running things that are like a hologram, and take those and cancel those out with kind of fire codes or fire letters type things, just from what I've been learning. And it's crazy how it's working even more than what I did before. It's kind of putting words to what the pictures were in my head.
I think that is a beautiful way of putting it. So much of this right now is about, I guess, interpretation and getting it figured out. So I think it's so beneficial for us to have peers, just for that simple solace of being able to have a conversation with someone on a personal level. Which, I mean, as we see the world burning around us, I think it's something we need to get back to. Is just like interacting with human beings on a human level. You know,
Which I love these conversations like this, because that's exactly what we're doing, is
Mhm,
helping other people feel, like, look, you're not crazy. We are doing this global dark night of the soul,
mhm,
but we're also able to lift each other up and to give them that love and that 0 point, or basically staying in the moment,
mhm,
just being an observer, saying, okay, this hurts. Wow, okay, is it mine? Can I release this, or what do I need to do? A lot of times I'll say, is there a part of me that needs to be listened to or heard?
mhm,
And I've seen versions of myself stand in front of me, for instance, the beta model, or the
mhm,
beta altar, which she was all scarred and bloodied and blackened up, and was just like, you know, basically chewing me out for self-loathing and not forgiving myself, and just all the horrible things that you think about yourself, not being good enough, being a stupid piece of crap or whatever. And then I was like, wow, you know what? I did those things. I'm so sorry. I love you. And then she just kind of became this little girl that was crying, and I was crying with her, and she hugged my legs, and I picked her up, put her in my heart. And, ever since then, I just have felt at peace from a lot of that trauma.
mhm.
And
Well,
I think that helping people as we can work on those things is really healing.
Absolutely. And in that guise of helping people and your experience, what I would like to do is I have a series of questions that I've been working together for, I guess trying to help you express your process to other people of awakening is my goal. If
Perfect.
any of my questions are not the direction that you want to go, I'll just say pass and I'll go to the next question. And we'll try it that way because I'm new at this and I'm not looking to offend anyone.
Perfect. Thank you
Um,
so much.
but in your life, basically, obviously you've had experiences that you felt were abnormal, right? But I would assume that for a period of time that you just had a slight collection of abnormal memories, that they didn't really mean much to you. You didn't have answers, and you were living your life like a normie, a normal person with a couple of abnormal thoughts, right?
Mhm.
So, is there like a dividing line in your life that you could apply, like a time period where you could say, up until this point in time, I know I was a normie, and then at this point is when it changed?
Actually, there was, when I was a teenager, I was put on Effexor,
Hmm.
which is an antidepressant, antipsychotic, and Paxil.
Hmm.
And I took it till I was about, I think, 21, 22 years old. That's when I was really in that zombie stage.
Okay.
Decided to wean myself off and went through several years of depression in
Hmm.
a marriage. We were both toxic for each other. Left that marriage, and I actually did an ayahuasca ceremony with my
Hmm.
brother, Drew, and it was an amazing experience.
I would imagine it was.
Visions that were very healing, and it actually took some of the trauma, and it took the feeling away from it. like
Mhm.
the scary, and I started to feel better. I didn't have the scary attacks and freezings anymore in my sleep, or feeling like just there's so much despair that I'm going through hell. And I did have a death experience whenever I had a reaction to morphine in the hospital, which I met Yeshua, Jesus, and was taught a lot of things about love and healing, which I'm actually starting to learn. He said my memories would come back slowly, but in a way that I would be able to help humanity as one of his children. And
Oh, I'm sorry. Would it be safe
oh
to
no, you're
say
fine.
that, would it be safe to say that you found the ayahuasca as a musician? Would you say it was harmonizing?
Um, I kind of fell away from the music thing for a while,
Mhm.
just
Well, I'm just
because
saying the term.
dark. The term.
The term harmonizing, that the use of the ayahuasca for the troubles that you were having at the time, that it kind of brought you a harmony.
I think it kind of did, and
Mhm.
then I did. I was looking at some. I think it was Stanford or Cambridge research on psilocybin,
Mhm.
and you're talking about people that have severe PTSD and depression,
Mhm.
to basically grind it into a powder, and it's an eighth of a teaspoon per 100 pounds of body weight. And
Huh.
so I was like, I'm going to do it. And so I was able to get some.
Mhm.
And, you know, after 2 suicide attempts, that saved my life.
I've heard very good things about psilocybin from people, and microdosing and things like that. And boy, I mean, not for nothing, that seems like a pretty natural thing, um,
Right.
compared to what the pharmaceutical industry is offering, with the long list of side effects that come with whatever is the unnatural thing they're producing.
It got me off of, I had 22 pharmas that I was on,
Mhm.
and 16 of them taking at one time. I was rotating because I was taking like, they would rotate between Oxycontin, oxycodone, hydrocodone. I had Darvocet, trying to remember a couple of the others, but they would rotate them every 3 months because I would build up a tolerance and then just be like, I was on like the antidepressants, antipsychotics, those. I was on one for vertigo. I was on beta blockers.
It is
What is the
unbelievable
ACE?
what that industry will just pump in the mouths of human beings. They don't
Crazy.
care
And
about anybody's health.
and between those and then cannabis,
Mhm.
it literally, I was able to stop of all of those drugs. Yeah, I've been through that dark night and those times, but I mean, I'm able to hold a full-time job. I work 42 hours a week. I take care of my children. It's hard as a single mom.
Mhm.
And, I don't get child support. That was an agreement that was made, with the judge, because we have split custody that's even. And I could cry about it, but I really feel blessed that I'm able to manifest what I stand in need of, because there's a lot of people that have gone through the trauma, the PTSD,
Mhm.
that go withdrawal. I was being labeled schizophrenic by my dad, and then my physician, what was it? My psychologist or whatever, he was saying that I had social anxiety disorder with depression and PTSD. And then he said that I had or it would be like Asperger's and Tourette's with autism spectrum. And so I'm like, what? No, I was just messed up. I don't think I have those things. I think I was just so traumatized, and I'm an INFJ.
Mhm.
You go inside and freak out.
The psychiatric industry as a whole is, I would say, as a tradesman, not built on very solid foundations.
Really isn't. And I mean, just by the way that I am, you can tell I'm not crazy.
Oh yeah, I
I'm
mean, it is.
clearly spoken
I
right.
I have worked for the richest of rich, the poorest of poor. I have seen all walks of life. I
Yeah.
don't really consider anybody mentally ill. I see them as having challenged lives. And
Mhm.
I think I've enjoyed every conversation with every human being I have ever met. And I have walked away from them the wiser.
I love that.
It is what it
That's
is. I mean,
beautiful.
every single person has value. And I'm sorry if you're offended by the way someone presents, you're not aware of the trouble they've gone through. And that to me is normally
Absolutely.
an indication of the person laying judgment.
Hmm.
I am a
You nailed
big
that right on
fan.
the.
I'm a big fan of the underdog. And
I know. I've kind of been that way too all my
yeah,
life. I'll
I
stand up
see.
for the
I
dog.
see people that are challenged in life, and I do the best that I can, which is not enough often, but it is what it is. And
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of people looking down their nose at other people when they really have no idea how they've lived. Um, Part of my benefit of my life experience as a service plumber was going into people's homes with great frequency. I assure you, working in the metropolitan New York area, I was a very busy little plumber and met a lot of people. And when you go into people's homes, that is the most intimate of environments. And you learn about human beings. You know, it's
That's
almost like being a bartender.
yeah. Yeah.
I would
Well,
show.
I bet that. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I bet that just the encounters that you've had with that wisdom you've gained really helps when you are helping somebody that might be going through a struggle, just because you can kind of pinpoint where, something that you've learned so that somebody's maybe had that coping mechanism.
Absolutely. When I was an apprentice, I was, learning my trade skills, slinging tools and wielding pipes. And I got to the point where I could get into a vehicle, and my employer was confident that I could go to people's homes and rectify things without having an overseer. Um, and I was, very happy to be moving up in the world, right? But lo and behold, I was working in very affluent neighborhoods, and the customers were extremely challenging. And I was young, so it was hard. And one of the older mechanics, he said to me, he goes like, listen, kid, he's like, you know how to do the plumbing. He goes, don't worry about that anymore. He goes, when you get to that house, he goes, the problem's the person. He goes, they're going to be all fired up, screwed to the ceiling, having the worst day of their life. They're going to hate your guts 6 ways from Sunday. He goes, that's your problem. He goes, walking in that house and fixing the plumbing is so easy for you now. He goes, but what you need to figure out is that human being and how to make them smile by the time you leave. And that became the challenge and the skill set to wield 100%. And I did get very good at that. It was, taking the confidence of the tools, and then when people actually see that the thing that is freaking them out, like right now there's water spraying out from under their sink as I walk in the door, I assure you they're not happy people, and they want me to
Right?
hurry up. But in that process, I give them the confidence that I can fix the repair, and in the process of fixing the repair, um, I guess they're in that mode. It's like Newton's laws of motion. They're already emoting and trying to get stuff fixed, and I'm in the firing line and functional. So they just unload and they start giving me everything they got in their life that's bothering, from their grandfather to their children to the roofer screwing them over. And I would just give them my thoughts. And
Aw.
they'd be smiling by the time that I left. And more often than not, the next time I'd get a phone call from that address, I would show up to someone who's beaming at the front door, not arguing anything about my price whatsoever. And now I'm under the sink working, and they're like, so last time I was here, we talked about such and such, and you told me to do this, and it worked. And now I want to talk to you about this. And I'm like,
Aw.
okay, sure.
That's so funny. The
Yeah.
plumber psychiatrist.
Yeah. It was, and that was my favorite part of the job. I missed that the most, was just the interactions with the people, and just like, finding out what's up, what makes people tick and what does bother them. And it's really amazing how, um, I think one of the main things that I've learned is that we are all giant children hiding in adult suits. We try to act like we're not. We really do our best at being, professional and adult-like, but it's so untrue. We look old. We're all just traumatized children. And if we started treating each other that way, the world would be a lot better. If we just went right back to playground tactics, and treated each other the same exact way we did in the playground. Don't take anything personally. Call each other out for exactly what you're being at that moment. Don't harbor things. Don't hold on to resentments somebody offends you, you turn around and you go, you're being an a-hole. I hate when you're an a-hole like that. But yet you still play with each other the next day, It's not the end of the world.
I think that's what Jesus talked about whenever he said, become like a little child. It's that NLP or neuro linguistics programming type thing of taking yourself back into that childlike state, fixing or changing the trauma, getting back to 0 point. Just an observer and being truthful with yourself.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
I definitely think a childlike mind or mindfulness would probably be a better way to interact with each other if we could all do it together,
Absolutely.
But so now back to your experience. So you've had the moments where you had your times of change, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you got post change and you started gaining more clarity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you then say that at that point in time, did you start to, I guess, maybe assess the things that have always been, like the abnormal moments? Like what brought you from there, post change, to where you are here? What are the things that might be signs or indicators for others in the waking process as you gained your clarity that they might look out for?
It's really been learning to forgive myself and love myself.
Okay.
Because when you have thoughts that you're not good enough and you come across beautiful relationships in your life and you start to sabotage that, you realize, wow, I didn't think I was worthy for that relationship or good enough for that person. And then the trauma of doing that sabotage, you've got to just be like, it happened. I acknowledge that. And that's in the past now. And I'm just going to do my best to move forward. And luckily, for the most part, people that are doing that inner work and realizing that we all have our moments when we're fucked up. We all have our BS inside. We all have the times when we're lying to ourselves. Or maybe we just don't know. Maybe we've got an attachment, or it can be voice to skull technology putting crap in our heads. We can always go back to that point and say, that was the shadow of something, and this is who I am right now. Right now, I love myself. Right now, I'm being centered. I'm being calm, and I'm going to do this right now and keep doing it for the next hour and keep doing it for the next day, for the next several days, for the next week, next month. And you finally realize it becomes habitual. And you're like, wow, I had an amazing day today. And so at work was a total dick. And I would have at first been like, oh, good, I want to go home. That guy's a shit. Instead, it's like, wow, that person's having a bad day. And I'd be like, I'm sorry you're having a rough day today. I hope that it gets better. And you know what? They smile. Because I love myself enough not to get triggered, because that's theirs. It's not mine.
And that's an amazing
It's not about me.
challenge to overcome. I'm happy to hear that you're doing that and you're providing that benefit in your environment. I try to be that way. I witness those moments, and I'm going more in that direction, but it takes more effort from me. But I appreciate everything that you just said.
Thank you.
You're already doing what I was trying to communicate to people to do more often. So thank you for being on point. Yeah, I was just about to try to suggest something like that, but you did it. So thank you.
You've got the personality. You definitely have a beautiful soul, and you radiate love just naturally, which I think that's why your clients responded so well to you, because of that natural trust that you're able to instill in others, because you are a very centered, a very grounded person. And that's really an honor to talk to you today.
Thank you. I think I know I've just made mistakes. I know I'm a flawed person, and I know other people make mistakes as well regularly. And I've always said, I mean, we all make mistakes, and the terminology I use is it's the measure of the man how you make corrections. I don't judge people for making an error, but I will assess their effort on making a correction.
Mhm.
That's where
That's the key.
yeah, so I don't judge anybody for making an error. I make mistakes all the time, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of the way that I choose to live my life is to I guess be more decisive and making quick decisions, but that leads to making more mistakes very rapidly.
Right. And I think it's shedding those layers too, kind of exploring the boundaries of ourselves. Like, okay, how far can I go with this without totally screwing up? But, oh, okay, that's where I don't want to be. This is where I don't want to be. Where's the happy medium? And
Mhm,
so maybe that's subconsciously during our learning process. That's why it's so important not to judge, because
mhm,
we got to figure out, okay, what's the shit ass rogue dragon? What's the spiritual rogue dragon?
mhm,
What's the person that's balanced that can be, yeah, I can do both. You're doing that too. So I'm seeing myself in you and I acknowledge that. And I love you. And I'm just being present for your journey here.
mhm. I love connecting with folks in this way. I think it's fantastic. Now, back to your experience and your things that have always been your abnormal moments and your, I guess, conscious expansion. At some point, you started connecting the dots, right? And I guess you would say maybe this is a different line that would be crossed that you started. Is there a time where you noticed that there was almost like intent applied? Because I believe as children we were manipulated and abused, taken advantage of by programs and adults. So maybe at what point in your life you may have become privy to that idea?
For me, it's kind of been a slow process.
Okay.
I think it's just my personality. I don't like huge change all at once, but if I learn to roll with different types of change, I can actually adapt pretty easily.
Hmm.
Uh, Sometimes I might have a little tantrum at first and then relax into it. I'm a life path 5, so we're actually pretty adaptable.
Hmm.
But I've just always had different things that were abnormal that I was like, I wonder what that is. But I had religion that we kind of explained it. I grew up Mormon LDS,
Hmm.
and my parents would be like, oh, that's just a spiritual gift that you have, or you can see angels or devils or whatever. Because I've always just been able to move the weather with my mind.
Oh,
Um,
very
like
interesting.
create snowstorms, rainstorms. The other day it was really yucky, and I was like, "Oh, not today, Satan!" Just kind of being silly with the sky. It was all gross and it was cold. It was 18 degrees. It looked like it was gonna snow.
Hmm.
Went into the house, just my job for my lady. I'm a caregiver. Came back out, and it was a sunny day, and all the clouds were over the mountains. So I just think, let it snow on the mountains. But thanks. And it's just always kind of been that way. Or I can be like, God, we really need some rain. And as long as I'm really relaxed with it and do like that same thing, it happens.
Hmm.
And so atmokinesis, my mom said that we've just, as my grandpa did it, my grandma could do it. We've just always had that sixth sense with each other, or the ESP or whatever she'd always call it, just your ESP. you know,
Well,
just
I'm
I
I'm
guess it's just always
enamored
kind
with I'm enamored with anybody who has the ability to work with water. As a plumber, I mean, it's very
of,
much on my radar as being a very special element, and it is. So I think it's a wonderful thing that your energy can connect with that element. That's amazing. Are you familiar at all with Victor Schauberger?
yes, a little bit.
He's an
I do recognize.
amazing person. They call him the Water Wizard. And a lot of his knowledge he ascertained just from observing nature and the water cycles. And I do believe that that is a very worthy avenue of study. I think water is a phenomenal element, and it's a great teacher of many energy cycles.
Right, right. Well, Masaru Emoto also, I don't know if you're familiar with his work. I
Very,
love him so much.
yep, yep.
Book is just phenomenal.
Yes,
So
because now you
yeah,
start
yeah.
getting into water retaining knowledge and emotion, and nobody wants to talk about stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah. Wait till we find out
Oh,
that.
I'm a science.
Yeah. Wait till we find out that the Earth and its complete saltwater system is just a giant data storage facility for some off-world system, and
Right.
we're just little digi things attending to a giant hard drive in space.
Well, and like I'm not sure if you're familiar with Kesh Plasma Tech.
No.
Um, I actually work with it. I make what's called Ganzanite. I'll show you a little one of the.
Cool. I like copper too.
But the little, yeah, I love it. The little thing right here, it's got a saltwater solution that basically I dissolved copper
Mhm.
and zinc with a
Mhm.
battery, and it makes what's called plasma. That's actually you can generate electricity with it. It's 0 point energy, so it is anti-gravity, which is really cool.
Mhm.
And just that I had a dream about putting magnets with it, the radionics coils, different crystals, because it's got a 33-foot radius that it travels. That actually helps with 5G radiation with
Excellent.
electrostatic fields. So really fascinating. I think you'd be interested. That it's
Oh,
just
I love all that stuff.
KESH.
I'm fascinated by water, copper, energy, Tesla tech, that type of stuff, all of the energies and frequencies. I mean, there's value to all of that, and it's all on my radar. Yeah, I could go on for hours on those topics. That stuff actually is, it's kind of the direction that I came into this stuff from initially. Was I was very interested in Tesla technology and was a student of that, and things just brought me deeper and deeper. And the more that I wanted to learn, and the more that I could understand, was lining my mind with Tesla's. And well, guess what happens when you start trying to go down that avenue? You're going to be separating yourself from the rest of the way humanity thinks, you know?
Rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah. They all think that this guy
So
Elon Musk is like something to do with Tesla and the future of humanity, and that's what technology is all about. It's the most silliest thing in the world. The guy's building rockets.
I know. I'm like, dude, there's bigger tech than that. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. There's a lot of
dang, just
there's
saying
a
what you
lot
can.
more
I
problems nowadays. But that's so funny because now brings me to my next question on the list from your experiences and these machinations of control that folks like you and I have come across since we were kids. When you look at the world today, right? I would say someone like you and I, we are both in this lion sleeps no more situation, like David Icke said. But now, when you look around the world, what do you see as the machinations of mind control being applied to those that are still asleep?
Oh, wow. A lot of things actually, which stems to a death threat that I had in 2007 over the phone. Um, but since I was a teenager, my dad used to show us, we actually gave us a disc that had the book Creature from Jekyll Island. And it talked about Agenda 21, New World Order. It talked about how the banking system was created, the cartels, and then we also learned about Codex Alimentarius and Agenda 21 that was implemented in 1997. They started doing the different vaccine stuff where they were basically, Dr. John Bergman talks about it, how they are rigging the studies to make it look like they're actually helping people when they're causing problems. And so I'm not a doctor, I'm not making a diagnosis, I'm making a little judgment for those that are listening or whatever, that if you go to his website, he is a physician and he's actually showing the truth and exposing it from the CDC.
This is my
Anyway,
page. This is my page. I'm empowering you to have an opinion.
right. Well, I was started to post that stuff on Facebook in 2007 when I first got on there, and got a phone call to remove that stuff, or basically the people that I loved and myself could possibly lose our lives. And it scared the hell out of me to want to talk.
Mhm.
And but those things I believe are definitely, it has to do with our food, what's being done with genetic modification, because it does affect the body. heavy metals, the chemtrails. There's studies that are on that you can find that have barium and strontium in it. Those are heavy metals. There's lead in our water supply. I mean, the food that we have there with, Sasha Stone is another one that's been exposing, like McDonald's and other companies that are using fetal cells, aborted fetal cells in their food. That's cannibalism. And so very serious things that have been going, in our food supply, our water supply, our medicines, and then programming on TV. That's Monarch programming. That's MK Ultra. We're being programmed over and over and over with crap. And we wonder why people are full of so much psychosis, because they're just being fed all of this shit. And then the traumas that they're trying to go through, and they cannot process it. If you don't have a clean body, you can't process. So I basically live dieta, which is what you would have to do if you're going to do an ayahuasca ceremony. I'm mostly vegan. I stay away from processed foods as much as possible. Sometimes I'll have a little cheese or something here or there, but mostly I eat fruits every day. I'll make sometimes maybe a soup or a stew or a pot of beans or whatever with just vegetables for your minerals and nutrients. And then I drink a lot of water from Cherry Springs right now. It's up in Idaho. Or like I'll go buy it in the filtered with the big jugs. I will not drink tap water. And then of course I try to do what I can just to take good minerals, like my D3 every day. I take 10,000 IU of that. I take my B vitamins. I take excuse me, what do you call it? Saw palmetto, which, because I've actually had a hysterectomy, and it helps to keep my skin hydrated. So it helps to keep me feeling youthful and healthy, which also good hormone balance for men and women. And just some other things I do, but it's so vital to have that mind, body, spirit complex in check. Do a heavy metal detox, which Dr. Chris Shade talks about on the internet. Basically taking chlorella and cilantro and drinking a lot of clean liquids to get those heavy metals out of your body, and doing a liver detox, doing a parasite cleanse, which I just went to the farm store and grabbed horse paste, ivermectin. It kills everything. And I'm like, shit, it's $8 for a tube and for weight.
And
Isn't that funny?
that'll take care of parasites within you, like incomplete.
God, it gets rid of scabies for me. It gets rid of lice. It gets rid of tapeworm, liver. Anything that I've noticed that I've had a parasite, or if I start feeling that gucka feeling again, I just go get it, and I'll treat my dog, my cat, my chickens, and my kids and me. We just all take it. But
Take that.
this is just what I like. But it's working. I feel good.
Yeah.
And I was what is it? Almost 13 years ago. I was 220 pounds.
Oh wow.
And I'm about 12 now, and I'm pretty athletic, pretty fit. I don't exercise every day, but I do stay active to, get my heart rate up and keep my core strength.
I agree with you 100% that our body is our temple, so to say. We need to get off of all the crap that they're pumping out. I kind of feel like, from like what you are giving in your response for the mind controls, it's almost in every direction at this point, no? Right? It's almost like if you and I had to walk down the street in any major metropolitan area, we could point in any direction and find some aspect of mind control being applied to everyone everywhere. Whether
the
it's
cell phone.
I was just thinking that. Cell phones on their hip.
Yeah, that's just those energy things. It's so wow.
Yeah. How many people? I shouldn't say how many. What percentage? How do I ask this question? How many people do you think spend time away from their phone during the day?
Not very many.
In a 24-hour period, how many of those 24 hours is that phone more than 10 feet away from the owner?
Right. Most of us have to have an app for work. We have to be on our phone. We're tracked by GPS.
Yeah.
And it's like, why?
That's insane. So talk about modern day mind control. Full-blown tracking and aspecting of everybody's day. You know, that's a fun AI to deal with in the future, all that metadata being collected. I've met
Right.
some
Well, it makes me wonder.
and they said that there's no reason
Yes.
to have metadata without AI, and there's no reason to have AI without metadata.
Uh, I know there's got to be a way to make it a symbiotic thing without taking away our free will and without taking our ability to raise our vibrational frequencies. I think a lot of times with that transhumanism, that's what's scary. Yeah, you might be able to have a neural link that you can upload and you can learn like this and become more psychic. But you know what? We can train our minds to do that naturally.
Oh,
Why have
absolutely.
a robot for us when who knows what the hell it's going to do? What is it going to suppress in our bodies? It's going to make us where we're just so non-human that we don't experience anymore. We don't evolve. So, you know, the quick, easy route isn't always the best route. We've got to think, you know, I've been meditating for over 17 years, almost 18 years now. It's a lot of work. And yeah, I can go to a gamma level. I can do astral projecting. I can do bilocation, portal jumping on, you know, etheric sides. But I've been studying my ass off. I meditate hours a day. I get up at 3 to 4 a.m. and I meditate for 2 to 3 hours in the morning and before I go to bed. So,
You,
you know, no, not everybody's dedicated to that practice, but it's doable.
you're
I'm a
you're
single mom, 2 hours.
you're 100% right. I mean, this is literally like what the ancient teachings of the masters from back in the day were getting at. Is they were just teaching techniques of reality and how to apply energy work as a whatever the title is, a shaman of this, a priest of that. But either way, they understood reality and they were working in harmony with it to do all these wonderful things that could be done because they had the training and the patience. What we now are dealing with is that people who are bastardizing these energies, who are not patient through training and technique, but are now applying technology, which is basically like a raping of the energy or the environment or the functions, however you want to call it. But that's the way of the world right now, and
That's the
people don't
Antichrist, if you
yeah, I mean, it's an applicable term. It would be a way of looking at it. You know, some people be way comfortable with it. Some people, you know, want another word, but this is where we got to find vocabularies, right? But regardless,
yeah, it's
the activity is still going on. The people's spirits, souls, energies, whatever you want to call them, are being impacted negatively by the application of intentions of people that have produced technologies that they don't want to talk about. Everybody's sitting at home right now. You know,
well,
your leading edge conspiracy theorists will be going, you know, someday 5G is going to be a threat and we need to be concerned because it can do this, 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 and this to the population. Really? You don't think they can accomplish all of those functions against society by another definition right now? You don't think they have a technique
right.
or a tool right now? You know, you mentioned television, you know, cell phones already exist. We already have social media where they can have an algorithm that can make X amount of people very happy today or X amount of people very sad today. Is that not a
And it's like,
manipulation of frequencies and energies
yep,
at the touch
violation
of
of
a
sovereign
dial?
free. Exactly. You're nailing that on the head.
You know,
Absolutely.
tomorrow morning, everybody could wake up angry if somebody spent enough money to make that happen.
Really can. Just turn on the news and you've got the anger pill right there.
Well, the idea is that there's a fluctuation going right now. It's just that technically there's many factions and many investments being made. But if one person wanted to step up and ante up high enough, I assure you, they would get the function they wanted. All of the technologies exist. It's just that right now, those are yet to be as monopolized as some of the technologies we're more familiar with.
Right? Oh my heavens. It's pretty crazy where we've come the past 100+ years in technology. So
Absolutely.
it's
Yep.
beautiful and it's terrifying.
Yeah, look at World War II. That's an amazing time period. My grandfather used to say that it was like a really, really compression of transition because that war started with horse-drawn cavalry and ended with the nuclear bomb.
Right. That just is mind blowing to think.
Yes. People don't understand what happened there. It started with dudes on horses swinging swords at each other, technically, and ended with a nuclear
Right.
bomb.
I mean, that's where I'm like, tell me that's not coming from people from the sky or some sort of
Right.
other
But
race or human.
heaven forbid
Right.
you suggest that at that same time period somebody walked out with anti-gravitics also.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Heaven forbid you say we've also
no.
had anti-gravity since then. Oh, that's impossible. Oh yeah.
They could have gone back in time and even beefed it up many times to,
Mhm.
look at what the NAI, those guys were doing with,
Mhm.
World War II. Dang. I
Mhm.
mean, the Bell ship they had, and holy cow, how much more technology do we have now that we're not even aware of? I mean,
Yeah.
let
It's mind numbing because the stuff that we are aware of, people won't even pay attention to. We had the 3 patents come out. I think it was within the last year, certainly, but maybe within the last 6 months. Maybe it was the last year at this point. But the Navy patents that came out for the anti-grav and the free energy and that stuff, this really makes me laugh. Salvatore Pais was the name of the inventor on the paperwork, which I find hilarious because it's savior of the nation.
Mhm.
Translates, and it's like, come on, you guys got to be kidding me when they do these name games and word games and they do things that are so obvious, right? This is one of the
Everything.
ones that I love. Did you know that Jimmy Carter had an assassination attempt on his life?
Oh, I wasn't aware of that, actually.
Yeah, this is completely referenceable. You're gonna love this. There were 2 assassins that they captured. It was oh geez, oh what was Kennedy's assassin's name? Lee Harvey. Oh, so it was
Was
Raymond.
it
Okay,
Harvey
so
Oswald?
there you go. So Carter had 2 assassins. It was uh oh geez, Osvaldo Ortiz was one of them, and it was like Raymond Lee Harvey and Oswaldo Ortiz.
Totally made up names, I bet. Oh my God.
No,
That's actually, it's sad, but that's
it was playing with the same names of the previous presidential assassin, Lee Harvey
right.
Oswald. So they had now 2 assassins named Raymond Lee Harvey and Oswaldo Ortiz.
Makes me wonder if Lee Harvey Oswald is his real name.
Yeah, so it was like
And
almost like they went to like the CIA Rolodex of names to blame people on. They spun the wheel, got the same names again, and they're like, well, what are we going to do? We got to use the wheel of names.
what about, I mean, theoretically, thinking about, all of the stories that we've heard people telling about secret space programs and super soldiers and Manchurian carrot candidates, what if that's what those people were? What if they were one of those trained Manchurian candidates that's put back into society because of, the mind wiping and age regression and whatever that they do? What if that's what that is? I mean,
There is no doubt to that one, Rogue. You actually hit the nail on the head. It has since been divulged. Oh geez, I'm stretching at the name. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he was the MK Ultra trainer with Stanford Research Institute. He has been pinned as the psychologist that was working with Lee Harvey Oswald.
wow.
These dudes
Wow.
met. I mean, you're right. MK Ultra program paths have crossed with these shooters time and time again.
Well, it makes me think Vegas shooter in recent years.
Oh yeah. I mean, come on.
Any of those. I mean, that's wow.
Even if you're to just take these people and set them up as scapegoats, all you
Right.
have to do is just take people that have been loosely affiliated or tightly affiliated with any of these programs, drop them on scene, bring anybody else in that you're not going to put on the news. You pop the guy in the head, you leave him on the ground, and he's got a shady history. And that's what happened at Sandy Hook. And that's what happened to
Yeah.
Columbine.
Wow.
And that's the standard MO is they just basically leave somebody on the ground that's got a great story that they could do. But that's not your shooter. I mean, I'm sorry, but Sandy Hook,
Right.
I was watching live with a friend of mine
Oh, wow.
who I told someone previously. I said, listen, watch the news when these things happen. Every single time it's the same thing. There's always the dead person that they're going to blame it on the ground already as the police are chasing someone else. So in Sandy Hook, there was somebody else they were chasing through the woods afterwards. I watched it live. I watched them arrest the person. I
Wow.
watched them put it in the car. I watched it with my friend who was going, wow, this is crazy. It's just like you said. And I said, watch, you'll never see this footage ever again.
Wow.
And it all went away. And that's what always happens. It was the same thing for that movie theater shooting in Colorado. They
Oh,
arrested
right.
the one kid, but they don't ever talk about the other guy that got away, that left
Right.
the other kid high on the scene as a scapegoat.
Wow.
I mean, it's not that challenging to get someone really doped up, take an addict, leave them on the scene of a crime and run.
Yeah.
And then go,
It's really
look what you did. Look what you did. You're a bad boy.
right. Yeah, it is really sad. And I'm grateful for the factions that have been coming together to expose this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And those super whistleblowers that, or insiders or waker uppers or whatever you want to call us,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking, we're sharing these things because it's very important to note, we're being controlled. We've been controlled for years.
Mm-hmm.
And we wake up and say, no more.
Mm-hmm.
We're done with this shit. This is just like what I love that Lisa says that I use all the time now. I am God. I am sovereign. I am free. I reject these agendas. This is a matrix hologram that is full of crap to control us. We're basically batteries. It's like in the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
We deserve to have our freedom, to have, be able to live our passion and be able to serve one another and bring communities up with no poverty. We don't need to have hunger. We've got technology. We shouldn't be thirsty with dirty water. We've got so much tech out there that's amazing. Machines that make water from the air.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Well, I'm gonna throw something at you, and this could be fun. It's almost like a thought experiment. And I'm gonna try doing this
All
with
right.
other folks in their interviews as well. So you get to break the ice on this one for me. And I'm gonna try to wrap up on this one as well. Thank you for the time that we've spoken. But my question, so to say, this is almost an imagination thing. So let's imagine that with all the troubles of the world that all the problems that could occur happen tonight. Let's imagine this is the last transmission. This is the last time your voice is going to be heard to everybody out there. So almost like words of wisdom for the citizens of World War III. If things go bad tonight, what would you like everybody to know for tomorrow morning when they wake up?
We're the change. We have to do it. You have to start with yourself. And it's got to be love. You can't think about what's in it for me. You got to think about how can I help my neighbor? How can I make things better for those around me?
Excellent. I have been using for years up here locally. I like the term neighbors helping neighbors. And that's been kind of a banner I've operated for here for a few years, trying to get people more involved in the community locally. So I agree with you 100%. I thank you very much for sharing that very heartfelt emotion. And I hope people listen to you. And I hope that tomorrow morning they wake up and they do more for their neighbors in their community. And I want to thank you so much for your time today, Rogue Dragon. And I do hope to have you on again in the future because I'm very interested in your experience, in your growth, and your desire to share that with other people.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor being able to visit with you, Eric. You're definitely a sweetheart, and I look forward to future conversations with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful night. Enjoy your boys. Have a great time. Enjoy.
You too, honey.